Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys of Magic. This is Hunter and Steven. Sebastian.
What's up, Steven?
We are back. Guess what? It's the $300 upgrade. We're doing bigger, better things. And these bigger, better things involve zombies. Specifically, Eternal Might. That's right. It is the Precon deck from Aether Drift. You guys have already seen the $100 upgrade to that, right? Because if you haven't, go check that out. It's in the link in the description. Check that before you watch this one because this is a sequel. But yeah, we are going to be talking about Temmet. That is the face commander of this deck. But if you guys wanted to see Hashaton, also check the link in the description because we have a $100 and $300 upgrade to that. We're using Hashaton in our Patreon. So yeah, check it out. But Steven, like I'm telling the people, this is your $300 build to Temmet. How was this build? Pretty cool.
Yeah, so I went ahead and listened to the comments from YouTube for a couple cards. I couldn't really put them in the $100 upgrade because they were a little bit pricey. So most of the time, if you see a card and you're wondering why it's not in there, it's probably because it might be a little expensive and we need to wait till we get to a bigger, badder budget. And that's what I did. But this deck is mean, whether you're running the face commander or you're running the backup commander. Two different kind of play styles to a certain extent. One really cares about zombies. One really cares about not really having zombies and just recurring some big, bad, mean things. Really go check out Patreon. I will not lie. It's fun. But Temet is fantastic. I played it in the $100 battle we did, and it was so much fun. I cannot wait to get into this build.
Well, let's not keep the people waiting. Just remind everybody real quick, what does Temmet do?
Yeah, so Temet, two white, blue, and a black for a 4/4 legendary creature zombie wizard. It's got Vigilance and Menace, which is just fantastic. I love it. That's my favorite thing on this card, minus the other part that says whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card, and then also let's go ahead and add on whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Just insane value here. You're churning through your deck. You have a bunch of card draw in the deck already, which is really cool. And just for playing the game, when your commander's on the field, all your zombies get +1/+1.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I saw the 100. That was crazy. I am interested to see what you do with this $300 build. So let's go ahead and get started. But as a reminder for everybody watching, once again, this is a sequel. So everything that is on the screen right now, Steven, that is coming right over from the 100, right? You're keeping everything the same there?
100%. I think everything that I added to the 100 made the deck hum, and now I just kind of wanted to make it a little bit more perfect.
Okay, so let's kick it off with some creatures. You did mention you listened to the audience. So what are we adding?
Yeah, so I did listen to the audience. So the first creature I'm going to talk about is going to be Rafine Scheming Seer. This card is fantastic in this deck. It comes down super early. It's got a big butt. It's got ward, flying for evasion. But yeah, so Rafine is a white, a blue, and a black for a 1/4 legendary creature, Sphinx Demon. Not a zombie, which is a little unfortunate. But like I said, flying ward one, and then whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. If you don't know what connive is, basically you draw X cards, then discard X cards. Put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each non-land card discarded this way. Uh, if we are building a giant board state and we're swinging with 5 creatures, not only do you get the +1 from drawing from your turn, you get the +1 from drawing for the attack on Temet, but now we get +5 if we're attacking with 5 creatures for drawing those. Insane value. Insane value.
Yeah, it is absolutely nuts here. I can see why this was definitely called upon. Like, hey, you got to throw in Rafine into this deck.
100%. Plus, the cool thing too is there is recursion in this deck, whether you have Hashaton on the field or just some other things. So being able to discard some cards to maybe get a little bit cheaper in the future is very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Another card that I saw that was highly requested was Verena Lich Queen. So this is one white, blue, and a black for a 4/4 legendary creature zombie wizard. Whenever you attack with one or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards, you gain that much life. You can also pay to exile 2 cards from your graveyard, create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. I mean, basically Rafine as a zombie almost, you could say.
Yeah, kind of. I feel like if you ruled zeroed and played this and Temet as partners, that is an insane combo. They work so well together.
Yeah, yeah, I will agree with that. just Verena and Rafine and Temmet. I mean, basically born to be in the same deck.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they brought Esper to zombies. It's fantastic.
Yeah. But shout out to the audience for those recommendations. But let's move on to some other zombies. This is a zombie deck. You got a couple more here.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a zombie that's not really a zombie. So Roaming Throne. This is going to be a 4/4 artifact creature golem with Ward 2. As it enters, choose a creature type. We're choosing zombie, of course. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. And then if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. Uh, Tons of triggered abilities in this deck, but obviously Temet's ability is kind of what we care about the most. So being able to draw two off the attack and then adding two +1/+1 counters is going to be solid.
Yeah, I think you're naming zombie here, right? You're just gonna
Oh yeah.
do all of the things with zombies. It's very good.
Uh-huh. Yep. And then we'll go ahead and talk about two more in this set, and then we'll get to the last one. I kind of want to save that as a little sprinkle of a surprise. So next up, we have Gray Merchant of Asphodel. It's a zombie deck. We got a lot of black, so we might as well gain some life and make our opponents lose some life. So Gray Merchant, or otherwise known as Gary, if you've been a part of the community a little bit, is 3 and 2 black for a 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the amount of life lost this way. Just stellar card. It's a zombie. We're doing some recursion. We can make copies of things. So just the fact that this is in here, let's just have some fun.
Yep, Gary is a staple in a lot of people's decks.
And then the last one we'll talk about in this set is going to be Warren Soul Trader. It's 2 and a black for a 3/3 creature zombie goblin wizard. It says pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. Obviously, board wipes run rampant, removal runs rampant, and EDH. So if somebody's targeting your thing to die, why not just pay a life and make a treasure out of it?
It's true. Easy.
Yep, just like you said, super easy to the point. This card is great in any kind of zombie deck.
And you're saving the best creature for last. I'm seeing something pretty apocalyptic.
Yes, very apocalyptic. It is Shieldred of the Apocalypse. It's 2 and 2 black for a 4/5 with Death Touch, legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor. Not a zombie, but when I read these next two sentences, I doubt we'll care about that. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life, and then whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. This deck is nothing but card draw. I did notice playing and kind of like getting hit a lot. Kind of want some life gain, so why not do it since we're drawing cards?
Yeah, I can totally see what is going in the deck, especially like you said, when you playtest this powerhouse of a deck, you just really start to take in the heat. So that extra gain life is essential, and Shieldred just completely takes that up to another level.
100%. I mean, and it's also not too far out of the realm to draw 10 cards in one turn. So I mean, to gain 20 life right off the rip just for playing the deck is going to be pretty solid.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for your creatures, Steven. I do see just two sorceries. Talk to me about these ones.
Yeah, so two sorceries, like you said. I feel like you can't have a zombie deck without some extra recursion. So reanimate is getting thrown in here. Reanimate 1 black. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So obviously, fun thing about this, it doesn't have to be your graveyard. Your opponents have something and you destroyed it, or your opponents destroyed something that you kind of want, just bring it back.
Or just whatever you just discarded after just attacking, you can just bring that back if you had less mana than it cost. It's pretty good.
100%. Also, a really fun thing you can do is you could also keep a 7 card hand with something really big in it and reanimate and just draw a card and pass. And you can always reanimate a creature that could be game changing. Turn 2.
It's very true.
And then lastly, I threw Windfall in because Windfall is fantastic. Each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. This deck has a lot of finishers in that aspect where it comes to playing a card, drawing a bunch, and then pumping up your zombie army. This just kind of helps out. It does technically help out your opponents too, so be careful. Maybe play it when they're tapped out or when they don't have too much going on, or you don't see 2 blue or 1 white mana. It's always so scary.
Yeah, Windfall as a finisher. I like it. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the instant department there, Steven. We got 3 coming up.
Yeah, so I kind of thought about it and I'm like, man, what would I want to do if I was playing against me with this deck? I would want to wipe the board. So I thought to myself, what can I do other than countering it to kind of stop that? Clever Concealment came to mind, especially now that we're in Esper. So we have that white mana. So 2 and 2 white. It's an instant with Convoke. So really fun thing you can do here is you can use your creatures that you have a mass amount to help pay for the cost of this. And you're going to kind of want to. And the reason why is any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. Treat them and anything attached to them as though they don't exist until your next turn. That's what phasing out is. Uh, 2 white mana, and then you can phase your entire board. It's almost like it's a Fairy's Protection, but a little cheaper, maybe, if you want to think about it like that. I also threw in the classic. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it, everyone hates it. Counterspell, 2 blue, counter target spell. Super easy, simple, to the point. And then I just wanted one more counter, but just a little bit better. 3 steps ahead, 1 blue technically, but it has spree. So you can pay an additional 1 and a blue, counter target spell. You can pay an additional 3, create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control, and then pay an extra 2, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Uh, all 3 modes on here are fantastic. The fact we can choose all 3 in one time is fantastic as well.
Flexibility there is fantastic. I like all three of these cards. Protect your stuff. That's the name of the game. You're doing it well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Moving back on to the permanent spells, I see one last one before we get to the land department. What is this?
Well, I know a lot of times a lot of people kind of get mad at us because we throw these, commander staples into the deck, but I feel in this deck specifically, you're churning through a lot of mana. And I noticed that one of the things that I kind of had an issue with was I would play one thing and I couldn't really do anything else. So I hated that. And what do I need to stop that? Smothering Tithe. Love it. My favorite card in Magic almost. It is 3 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player does not, you create a treasure token. Amazing. Just play it. It's a great card. Don't pay the 2. Let me have fun.
Yeah, I can totally see why you're throwing this in here. It's too good not to. And finally, Steven, land department. You touched it a little bit. What are we throwing in?
Yeah, so 3 lands, pretty simple here. Otawara, Soaring City, legendary land, tap for a blue, or you can channel it. For 3 and a blue, discard Otawara, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So usually it never costs 4, but if it does, still being able to bounce something on your opponent's side of the field, or even bouncing something on your side, so that way you don't have to risk it being exiled or destroyed. So pretty simple there. Like I said, this deck comes with a lot of card draw. I did notice that I was discarding a lot, and even though we like to discard sometimes I don't. So Reliquary Tower got added in. You have no maximum hand size. Tap for a colorless, and the land that had to have been added that I had to wait for this upgrade was 3 Tree City. Legendary land, as it enters, choose a creature type. Again, shocker to no one. We're choosing zombie. Tap for a colorless, or you can pay 2, tap it, choose a color, add an amount of mana of that color equal to the number of creatures you control of the chosen type. From the 100 to this, we're still trying to go wide. We're still trying to smack face. This helps us. So I love 3 Tree City in this deck.
You're naming zombies every time. Three Tree City is the best kindred land ever produced, ever created, should I say, but it is obvious to throw it in here.
Yep.
But is that going to do it? Is that all the additions for this upgrade?
Yeah, those are all the additions.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get on to the cuts. We got to make room for all these brand new cards. But once again, sequel, everything on the screen that you cut from the 100, you are still cutting out of this 300, correct?
Yeah. Wasn't helping in the 100. It's not going to help us in the 300.
Okay, well, let's get on to the cuts. Which cards are we cutting out of this deck?
Yeah, Hunter. So let's go ahead and get into the removal. So first up is going to be Corpse Augur. This is 3 and a black for a 4/2. Essentially, whenever it dies, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of creature cards in target player's graveyard. I do like this card. I just don't think it really helps the deck out too much because obviously it's when it dies. You can always use a card like we kind of added a bunch of things to sacrifice creatures. But even though we have a bunch of life gain that we added in, I kind of still am a little bit fearful about losing too much life, especially getting targeted when this deck hits the table. So Corpse Augur's gone. Next up, I hate to say it, but Fleshbag Marauder is gone. Two and a black for a 3/1. We see this effect quite a lot in Magic, especially now, especially in zombie decks. Whenever it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. This is good if the board's already controlled, but if your opponents have a bunch of stuff, I feel like this card almost does nothing. Um, unless you're running like a bunch of effects like Grave Pact and things like that, and you're controlling the board even more. I feel like having this in a Precon deck, especially when we're trying to build it up to a certain standard, it's not going to help us out too much. Gem Palm Polluter is up next. This is 6 mana for a card that you technically only cycle. It has no ETB effect whatsoever, so you're paying 6 mana for a 4/3. I love the fact that it's a cheap cycling cost, and technically everyone loses one for each zombie in play, which we could technically have a lot, but it makes almost no sense to me in this deck when we can just draw a bunch with other aspects. So next up is Lazatop Chancellor. This is a blue and a black for a 1/3, and although I do love a big booty on a card that comes down early, it doesn't really do too much, especially in this deck. It says whenever you discard a card, you may pay one. If you do, amass two. We got rid of Dreadhorde Invasion, and I saw all the comments saying, bring it back. You can gain life that way. We add the life gain, other cool ways. I don't need Dreadhorde, and I don't need Lazatop Chancellor. Midnight Reaper's also going away. This is 2 and a black for a 3/2. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to you, and you draw a card. Again, we're making a lot of tokens, so I don't really want to sack the big creatures. Sometimes you can recur them, sometimes you can't. I feel like this is kind of a dead card in your hand at times, so I just kind of got rid of it. Plague Belcher is a 2 and a black for a 5/4 with Menace. When it enters, put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. And then also it says, whenever another zombie you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. Cool card. We have tons of effects like this in there. I don't really need that being in the deck. I It's a cool card. I just don't like it too much. So I got rid of that of mine. Keep it in yours if you like it that much. Twisted Abomination is a pointless card. It is 5 and a black for a 5/3. It says regenerate for a black. It also has Swamp Cycling too. I like the Swamp Cycling, but I feel like that's the only reason why this card's in the deck. Sure, you can constantly regenerate it, but again, it's 6 mana. So really, the only time I want this card is to cycle it away and then possibly bring it back. But there are so many better recursion pieces that you shouldn't need to bring back. In my mind, a French vanilla 5/3. So it's gone. Vizier of Many Faces is heading out of this deck as well. It's 2 and 2 blue for a 0/0. When you cast a spell, you may have it enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except if it was embalmed. The token has no mana cost. It's white, and it's a zombie in addition to its other types. Embalming's cool. I do like the fact that this enters as a copy of something, so you can get like another ETB, which is fun. But for 4 mana, it just seemed a little bit too much, and we just have so many things we could do with 4 mana instead. And lastly, Wizened Mentor. It stuck around for the 100 because I think that's where it kind of has its place. But now that we're in a higher budget, it's got to go. So 1 and a white. It's a 2/2, and then whenever an opponent activates an ability of a permanent that isn't a mana ability, you create a 1/1 white zombie creature token. The reason why I'm getting rid of this is the next sentence. This ability triggers only once each turn. Uh, all that for 1/1/1. Don't need it. It is fun because if you're making a bunch of them, obviously they become much stronger. But again, it the once each turn and your opponents can work around it. It just doesn't really add up to the power level I want to be at.
Yeah, I totally understand why you're cutting all these creatures. Um, I just feel like there's a lot of these creatures, and I get it. They're zombies. They care about dying. But this deck is made to like go wide. You don't want them to die. You're trying to
Yeah.
swing in with damage. So I can see why you're cutting all these cards.
Yep.
But let's go on to the sorceries. You got one coming out.
Yeah, Dread Summons gone. I liked it in the 100 because sometimes when you do have mana, but you don't have anything else to do, maybe making zombies is good. So X and 2 black. Each player mills X cards for each creature card put into a graveyard. This way you create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. So we have a sorcery, so you have to do this on your turn. The zombies come in tapped, and there's a chance that you don't make any. I feel like the return on investment of this card is not great. The floor is very low. The ceiling could be high if you have a ton of mana, but I'm not trying to do an infinite combo where I have infinite mana and this is the card I care about the most, where I'm trying to mill everybody out. I want to swing in with a bunch of damage. So this card got axed pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, you being the mill player, I see whenever you cut out a card, it might hurt you. But this mill card, not that good.
Yeah, I dreaded taking this card out.
Oh, so funny. And 1 to 1, I mean, one sorcery, one enchantment.
Yeah, so cast out's gone. It is 3 and a white for a flash enchantment. Whenever it enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until cast out leaves the battlefield. It also has cycling white. So discard this card, draw a card for 1 white mana. Pretty good. And I feel that's the only reason this card's in the deck. I can't ever imagine holding up 4 mana to flash this in and exile one thing. I rather just spend an extra couple mana, destroy the board, or just do anything else really. I think this card is good in certain decks, not this one.
No, I agree with you. Cast out, in my opinion, unless you're running just like a enchantment matters deck, I don't like the effects that just target something until it leaves. So,
Yep. I rather have Grasp of Fate so that way you can at least pick 2 other things. But just choosing one thing for 4 mana and this stays on the field and they have the possibility to get it back, I can't do it.
yeah. And moving on, finally, we've got some lands that we're taking out. What lands are we getting rid of?
Yep. So I added 3 lands and I got rid of 4. Shocker. Me?
Shocker. Who would have thought?
No way. So Ash Barrens is gone. Basic land cycling one. I kept it around for the lower power because I like the basic land cycling, so being able to discard. But the thing is, you're not drawing a card. You're just searching for a basic land card. So this doesn't even really trigger your commander. Uh, it's kind of garbage when you think about it. Again, kept it for the 100, but now that we're higher, we're bigger, we're badder, it's gone.
Get it gone.
Yeah. Uh, Getting rid of Desert of the Glorified, so enters the battlefield tapped, makes a black, and you can cycle it for 1 and a black, and then also Desert of the Mindful, same thing but for blue, and then cycle for 1 and a blue. Again, I understand why these are in the deck, but at this point, tap lands, I'm trying to reduce the amount of things that slow us down. So Prairie Stream, I got rid of. I know it sounds kind of weird, but so our color pie at least is very low on the white and the blue. So this is the one that I wanted to get rid of. Uh, Not a lot of basics in this deck. I think there was, I think 14 maybe. So out of 100 having the 2 basics, I feel like most of the time when I draw this card, it usually always enters tapped. I could have gotten rid of like irrigated farmland instead because technically that comes in tapped, but it has cycling. So if we're in the late game, we draw it, we can at least get another +1/+1. This one, we might still have it enter tapped. So I rather have the little bit of flexibility there.
I gotcha. All makes sense to me. And that looks like it's it, Steven. Is that your entire $300 upgrade to Eternal Might?
That is my entire $300 upgrade.
All right. Well, I got a couple of different questions for you. The first one: what is the amount of money you spent on all of these additions?
Well, Hunter, I broke the bank a little bit. Uh, at the time of recording of this video, I spent $310.
That is more than $300, Steven.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? I'll spend the extra $10 for this deck. That is how much I love this deck.
Okay, I'll give it to you, but only if you answer my next question. What do you? I mean, you say you love the deck, but what do you think about the deck as now that you've built it into a $300 build with Temmet at the
It's
helm?
Yeah, so I mean, Hunter, I'll answer that question fairly and honestly. I really love this deck. It is fantastic, and it's interesting because it's almost like playing Gruul, because it's big stompy to a certain extent, but it's got a little bit more thought that you kind of have to add into it, which is kind of nice, and that's what I think I like about it the most. It's not all Timmy here, all right? Uh, but it is fantastic. I think it's slowly but surely taking its place as my favorite deck that I've built.
Oh,
My other deck being Will Help, but I think that this might actually take its spot. adding the white mana pip to make it Esper, so you have that extra flexibility and just a slew of cards you can add to it, really help it out. It's a really fun build. I'm really happy that Wizards built this, and I really hope you guys get to enjoy it. Build it how you like it, build it how I built it, but just have fun with it. This is a good one.
Yeah, it definitely seems a lot of fun. So it sounds to me like you are on top of like, hey, you totally recommend this. Go buy the Precon.
100%. Even if you don't like intend to upgrade it, straight out of the box, this deck is pretty mean. You're swinging for a lot, pretty much almost every turn, and if your commander's not dealt with every single time, you're hurting somebody.
Yeah, I've seen it in action with the 100. I'm terrified to play it against it in the $300 upgrade. So, you guys, stay subscribed. We are coming out with videos all the time. Hit the like button if you guys like this video. Let us know. Always interested to hear your guys' opinions, so go down there and comment. Let us know what you thought of this build. Like I said, we read them. We took your opinions. We built this $300. In the description below, you also can find the entire deck list right there. Click the link, check it out. In the description as well, you'll also find links to all of our social media accounts hanging out there, waiting to be clicked for you to go follow us on those. And on the screen right now, those are all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your added support. It really does mean the world to us. If you guys wanted to check out what they're seeing, including that $300 upgrade to Eternal Might, that's right, using Hashaton. I know the most popular commander in all of Aether Drift. It's over there on our Patreon, waiting for you guys to go check it out. Links in the description as well. And a very special shout out to our Gains Indestructible tier, starting with Daryl Tripp,
Demarion Turner,
Doc Jerome,
Jimmy Ward,
Kevo,
Larry Killian,
Matthew McClendon,
Robert Mayat,
Thrifty PSGR,
Tim K,
Wish or Reich.
Ryder Cole.
You guys are awesome. Appreciate you guys so much. And until the next video, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Goodbye.